6 a.m. and I'm on the Citarum River with Herman and his son Alec.
You can barely see the river. It's just covered in plastic. There's all kinds of rubbish here, from shoes, nappies. It's all household rubbish. This is stuff that people have thrown in, and then every now and then you come across something like that. A dead fish just floating. Oh. What is it? When was the last time you actually caught some decent fish in this river?
Udah lama, Bu. Sekarang nggak dapat.
Nowadays, Herman and his 13-year-old son are after a different kind of catch. They're scavenging for rubbish.
What kind of plastic are you looking for?
Iya, rongsok doang, Bu. Iya. Kan ikan kecil itu lagi ngambang gitu.
This is said to be the world's most polluted river.
40 years ago, when Herman started fishing, it was easy to get a good catch. Since then, 60% of the fish species have been wiped out.
Would you rather catch fish or rubbish?
Kalau banyak suka ikan itu ada. Kalau banyak ikannya suka tempat ikan itu. Sampah mah kan jarang gitu lah.
Do you think the people who throw all this rubbish in here know what's actually going on further downriver?
Ya pasti tahu, pasti itu buang sampah ya biasa lah, Bu. Nggak punya itu, mereka buang seenaknya aja gitu. Lempar ke sungai gitu.
10 million people live on the Citarum. A study by the World Bank found almost all of these villages dump their rubbish by the river.
Ini masyarakat di sini buangnya ke sini gitu, Om. Sampahnya.
That huge pile there comes from his village. Most of them are fishermen, and they know what happens when the rubbish hits the river.
Much of it is plastic and won't degrade for decades. On stretches of this 200-mile-long river, the rubbish starves the water of oxygen.
Good catch?
Ya, mau di karungan nih ya. Jual ke itu, ke bandar gitu.
Herman can still make £15 in a good week, selling the rubbish for recycling.
Cucu, Abah, kita bilang. Why?
While Herman relies on the Citarum River for his living, millions depend on it for washing and drinking. If this water's killing the fish, I want to investigate what effect it's having on the people. I head 30 miles upstream. Here, the river passes through Majalaya, a major industrial area. A booming textiles industry has seen the population explode by 300% in the last 30 years.
This is one of the thousands of villages that's dotted along the Citarum River, and I'm here to find a woman called Iwa who's going to show me around.
I've arrived on her birthday.
Oh! Thank you very much. This is Iwa. She's one of the most popular people in the village, and she's the go-to lady if you've got a problem. She gets your children enrolled in school, she gets you registered for healthcare. She can sort anything out.
But there's one village problem she's struggling to fix.
Iya sama. Di RW 7 juga sama kayak tadi, pipanisasi, resapan ke sumur-sumur, sama.
Water from the Citarum River is channeled through this village, bringing a tide of pollution with it that's seeping into the drinking wells.
udah nggak bersih lagi kan. Tapi fungsinya masih tetap sama, dialirkan ke sini buat keperluan semua. Saya juga masih waktu kecil berenang di sana di kali, masih jernih.
Everywhere I look, people are using the river water. Nearby is an outlet from a textile factory.
Are you worried about this water at all?
Ya, kadang-kadang kalau nggak diperas begini itu kena kulitnya kalau dipakai begini. Kalau sekarang hari Minggu airnya agak lumayan, nggak begitu keruh ya. Kalau bukan hari Minggu mah ada air yang hijau, ada yang kuning, ada yang merah, ada yang hitam gitu. Tidak bisa dipakai cuci gitu.
These water channels are also open sewers.
This is the communal bathroom here in the village. They wash clothes, they wash dishes, they brush their teeth while all the time trying to expertly maneuver around bits of human excrement that are floating in the water.
People here know this is dangerous, but they have no option. Eva's biggest concern is for the village's youngest residents.
Assalamualaikum.
Kang ada Kak keluar.
Oh, darling, scares.
Sanya is 18 months old. Recently, she hasn't been able to stop scratching her face.
How long has she had this rash?
Dua bulan.
Why do you think it's the water?
Airnya kotor dari situ. Resapan air itu kotor dari kali-kali gitu.
Ya kan ada telnya, anjing orang ke puskesmas sesarangan sering pada. Tapi kan saya jam 10-an anjing angkat sesarangan gitu.
While many blame the rashes on the raw sewage, others blame chemicals from the textile factories, which have sprung up along the river.
My children.
Oh, hello.
Dimas.
Most of Eva's family work in the textile factories, including her son, Dimas.
Nah, kita tanya ke Dimas. Dia kan pencelupan.
And when you're working in the factory, do you wear gloves? Do you have protection?
Ya, soalnya kan banyak beracun sih. Kalau buang limbah, biasanya posisinya itu tengah malam. Sekitar jam 12 malaman lah, tengah malam. Soalnya kan sama kucing-kucingan sama warga lah.
So how does that make you feel? You have protection when you're inside the factory, then you put the stuff in the river.
Justru jadi ironi. Jadi prihatin. Sementara kan saya juga butuh makan lah dari hasil kerja. Tapi gimana lagi?
More than half the adults in this region work in textile factories. Stitching, weaving and dyeing clothes for some of the world's biggest fashion brands. It's a $12 billion industry that helps make Indonesia the largest economy in Southeast Asia. The next morning, E was arranged for her brother to take me on a tour of the Citarum.
He wants to show me the various sources of pollution which he says are poisoning the river.
Denny is the most vocal environmental campaigner in this area.
Why is there so much rubbish all along the sides of the river?
Ya, kalau untuk jumlah penduduk, untuk satu dusun aja ada 6.000, itu dalam satu kawasan desa. Tumpukan sampah, karena memang sarana yang disediakan pemerintah pun minim. Nah, ini adalah mulai masuknya pabrik industri nih di sekitar Sungai Citarum, yang dimana mereka mengambil air dari Citarum dan mengeluarkan limbahnya pun ke Citarum.
We've just come past what Denny tells me is the outlet from one of the textile factories here.
Ini limbah yang tadi keluar berwarna biru yang merupakan limbah kimia, merupakan perusahaan masyarakat, perusahaan kecil masyarakat.
Is there any regulation?
Ya, sebenarnya semua dapat peraturan, baik industri besar ataupun kecil, karena Di Indonesia itu punya Undang-Undang Nomor 32 tahun 2009. Cuman sekali lagi pengawasan dan penegakan hukum kita masih lemah.
The factories are legally bound to remove dangerous chemicals from the wastewater. Indonesia's Association of Textile Manufacturers says its 200 members on the Citarum treat their wastewater, but accepts that hundreds more textile factories, which don't belong to their organisation, pour untreated waste into the river.
Sampah bertumpukan, tempat buang air limbah. Kalau dulu natural.
Just come past another factory outlet, and this stuff is dark blue. It smells really strong and there's steam coming off it. Denny tells me that's because it hasn't been processed, hasn't been treated at all, just been pumped straight into the river.
Ini limbah kimia, bahan berbahaya beracun keluar dari industri tanpa menggunakan instalasi pengolahan air limbah. Kalau pemerintah membiarkan ini, maka sama dengan menciptakan bencana ekosistem.
I feel like I should be really pleased for these boys to have somewhere to swim, but everything that I've seen down the river, the domestic waste, the chemical runoff, the sewage, I'm really quite disturbed to see them jumping in like that. The scary thing is, it's this same water that irrigates these paddy fields, and everyone who lives around here eats rice that's grown in fields like this one.
The wastewater that I've seen flowing into the river looks pretty bad. I want to discover how dangerous the pollution is to human health. I've enlisted the help of Dr. Sunardi, a scientist from nearby Pajajaran University who spent his career researching the Citarum River.
They dump their rubbish there. You can see the toilets just over there, and there's this outlet from one of the factories.
He starts by sampling the channel that carries river water through Iwa's village.
Dark brown, right? Or dark red?
Yeah.
Water is very acidic.
He'll analyse the samples later, back in his lab. Next, Dr. Sunardi tests the drinking well, which locals believe provides the cleanest water in the village.
This well from the river is so close. So it's possible the contaminant transfer to the well to the ground.
Dr. Sunardi will test these samples for industrial heavy metals, like mercury and lead, which can cause serious health problems.
This is Adi. He has a baby daughter. And they wash her using this water.
The water comes from that river.
Which is where we're heading to take our final sample.
It's going to take Dr. Sunardi and his team a few days to get the results of their tests. But in the meantime, there are quite a few people in this community who think that urgent action needs to be taken to stop the pollution going into the Citarum River.
Over the last 10 years, Iwa and Denny have tried to stop factories polluting the river by staging peaceful protests.
Hello.
With little success, they're changing tactics.
Iwa, I know you. So what's happening?
Untuk penutupan pipa pembuangan limbah kimia.
Coba cari nu aman lah. Cari nu aman, lokasi nagus anu jauh ke penduduk, anu hesa ditinjau ke penduduk tolong.
Ini relatif tertangani karena volume pembuangannya sedikit. Nah, yang parah adalah kali Cikacemban.
When the activists have carried out protests in the past, they claim they've been threatened.
Apalagi di awal-awal. Nah, seperti yang tadi saya sampaikan, intimidasi itu tidak hanya sekedar SMS ataupun telepon. Mengalihkan persoalan agar timbul konflik dengan kita, memancing emosi kita.
kegiatan ini berjalan aja lah. Soalnya masyarakat yang mendukung perusahaan itu jauh lebih sedikit jumlahnya daripada masyarakat yang peduli lingkungan.
Denny and the group have decided to block up one of the wastewater outlet pipes, which is a very brave decision. The textile industry is king in this area, and they've all got families, so there's a lot to lose. Back in the village, baby Sanya still has her rash. Her family uses this pond for washing, cleaning, and they even boil it for drinking. This morning, E was taking Sanya and her dad to the doctors.
Bentar ya, Dede pinter Dede. Cuman Dede itu aja ya. Ya. Jadi ini penyakitnya gatal di bagian hidungnya, namanya impetigo crustosa. Dari air, dari dunia luar ya ke sini.
Masyarakat semuanya di situ.
Ini jangan seadanya, harus dijaga kebersihannya, higienitasnya harus dijaga ya. Jangan mandi di air kali seperti itu ya, air kotor.
Do you think this is caused by chemical pollution or human pollution?
Ini biasanya penularannya akibat dari dari binatang bisa, dari manusia juga bisa. Destruction the skin, yang chemical itu ya.
So how many of these cases do you see every day?
Kira-kira sekitar 3 orang ada. Banyaknya hampir sekitar 60% anak-anak itu menderita penyakit seperti ini.
While antibiotics should do the trick for now, the doctor warns Sanya's rash will come back unless they start using clean water. In his lab, Dr. Sunadi has finished analysing the samples from Iwa's village.
Hello.
Hello. So you've got results?
Yes. Ternyata menunjukkan bahwa semua sumber air itu tercemar oleh logam-logam berat. Sangat menyedihkan.
Most alarming are the results from the village well. It has mercury at nearly 4 times the recommended safe level for drinking water.
Logam berat itu tidak bisa diuraikan, dan dia tidak bisa diuraikan dengan perebusan.
And so why is mercury dangerous?
Masyarakat yang meminum air yang terkontaminasi itu sangat berisiko terkena kanker, kemudian kemunduran mental, pertumbuhan yang sangat lambat, itu sangat mungkin terjadi untuk anak kecil seperti Sania. Sehingga dia harus segera diselamatkan dari konsumsi air yang tercemar oleh logam berat seperti merkuri dan kadmium.
If you found this level of toxins in treated water, say in the tap water in Jakarta, what would the government do?
Ya, saya pikir pemerintah harus segera menutup perusahaan air minum tersebut. Sebab konsekuensinya tadi, pemerintah harus menutup perusahaan tadi.
The dangers of heavy metals are well documented, but no one is monitoring what they're doing to the people who live on the Citarum.
There are various contaminants that go into making the Citarum River one of the most polluted in the world, but regardless of where the pollution comes from, ultimate responsibility lies here with Indonesia's Ministry of Environment. Parif, hi, good to meet you. Shay Rhodes, Unreported World.
Arif Uomo is the Deputy Minister for the Environment. I show him the results from Dr. Sunadi's tests.
What is your department doing to try and keep these heavy metals out of the river?
Itu semua kita dalami dengan kegiatan-kegiatan yang ada. Dan kita juga punya baseline-nya, dan kita berharap juga dalam waktu tertentu kita bisa turunkan dengan cepat, dengan pertimbangan bahwa memang itu kesehatan manusia yang utama. Yang merupakan pendekatan dari Undang-Undang 32 2009 tentang pelindungan dan pengelolaan lingkungan hidup. Menemukan perusahaan yang ternyata itu melanggar hukum, maka kita beri warna hitam.
It's not difficult to find these results. Look at this photo. Every day we went down to the river, every single day for 1 week. And every day the river was this color. Why is it taking your government so long? Why do you find it so hard to do something about this?
Kita paham bahwa di Citarum ada masalah, termasuk juga pencemaran air. We cannot do it overnight.
The Indonesian government claims it has shut down a factory for illegally dumping chemical waste into the Citarum, but it wouldn't disclose any details of the incident or name the company. Back in the village, I'm keen to find out if Sanya's antibiotics are working.
Oh, Sanya. Wow.
Udah baikan sekarang.
It's really great to see that Sanya's rash has cleared up, but now that I know what's in this water, I can't help wondering how long it's going to last. You're always smiling. It's almost like you're not too worried.
Senyum sih bukan berarti happy. Kadang kita ingin menertawakan pemerintah setempat. Seorang gubernur Jawa Barat, Pak Heriawan mengatakan, insya Allah Citarum tahun 2015 airnya bisa diminum. Saya ketawa aja. Apa iya 1 tahun? Sekarang kan 2014. Dia kan bisa mengajukan karena pemerintah. Tapi kenyataan di lapangan dia diam aja kok.
Iwa and her campaign group have lost faith in the government. Today, they're taking matters into their own hands.
Ini airnya nih. Keluarnya ini.
The group have finally managed to identify the outlet pipe that they're going to block up.
Ya, sisi balik tuh. Ke media air. Kita tambah lagi. Ayo.
Dampaknya tetap air akan balik ke tempat pembuangan. Akan balik lagi ke tempat.
By blocking this pipe, they hope to flood the factory, causing as much disruption as they can.
Kayaknya lebih gede.
Nyanyi udah ketahan atuh.
There are dozens of factory outlets along this stretch. I can't help thinking this is more a symbolic gesture of defiance.
Tapi kita anggap selesai ketika pabrik tidak lagi mengeluarkan pencemaran. Dan akhirnya kalau mereka tetap mengeluarkan limbah, kita akan permanenkan.
By the next morning, the blockage has been removed. Denny never found out whether they managed to flood the factory. What's happening to the Citarum River is a danger to the people who live on it. But there are similar stories in many countries as governments, struggling to cope with massive population growth and the need to provide jobs, turn a blind eye to unfolding environmental disasters.